What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Walkout Podcast.
where we talk about fights, news, and more.
And today it's time for the review and reaction to UFC 326 that took place this Saturday in Las Vegas. And of course, the main event, we saw Charles Oliveira defeat Max Holloway in very dominant fashion, 5 rounds, 2-0. And is the BMF title finally dead now? At least it's changed hands. There's been a lot of controversy after this fight about the way Charles won it. But at least in my opinion, it was very dominant and not as boring as some people make it out to be. But what did you think of the fight overall?
Yeah, absolutely. I've also seen a lot of those people who have been sort of disregarding this BMF bout as as not a real BMF bout, but just because of the way that Charles won this. But I don't think that's the correct way to think about this. I think that we should stop focusing altogether on that BMF title in terms of this fight, and instead just look at Charles Oliveira and what he managed to pull off here, and a masterclass, I would almost say, not only in the grappling but also how much pressure he put on Max Holloway on the feet, how he used the threat of the takedown to consistently, put pressure on Max Holloway and get so many takedowns and so much control time through the fight, which I think that's the reason why people have been a bit mad about it because of the control time and the grappling. But you have to realize that this is not only a BMF title fight. This is a not a title fight. This is a UFC, an important UFC bout as well.
Yeah.
And for both of these fighters, so it's not simply about winning in a BMF way, if there is such a way, such as a knockout. It's also actually about taking the win. And I respect Charles Oliveira for actually taking this fight seriously and doing whatever he could to get his win here. And really impressive performance from Charles Oliveira, mixing it up, really, using mixed martial arts here, not only going for the takedowns, but also putting a lot of pressure on the feet, hurting Max Holloway several times. As you said, it was a pretty dominant, you could say, 5-rounder, probably even. The last round, I think that Max Holloway, maybe he started to come into it a bit more with a bit more volume, but still there was no way to escape from the pressure of Charles Oliveira for Max Holloway in this fight. And yeah, I just want to disregard the whole BMF discussion here, and I just want to look at what Charles Oliveira managed to do here. So that's my thought on this fight. Totally deserved win, by the way. So that's my thought. Do you agree with that, or do you think that those people talking about the BMF are in their right to do so?
No, I totally agree with you because that's the thing. The guy who wins this, especially if they did it in a dominant fashion like Charles did, is probably like maybe one more fight and then it could get another title shot. So it's way too high stakes. The stakes are too high to, mess around and try and, a bit like Holloway and Gaethje did the first time around. It was a very entertaining fight, but it's like it's almost not as serious as it should be on this level. Like a main event on a numbered card with a number one contender spot almost on the line. I totally agree with you that anything else from Charles would have been stupid when he was 3-0 up. And another misconception that I would like to bust here is the fact that a lot of people have been acting like this was like a, Makachev versus JDM performance or Hamzat versus DDP. I mean, Charles had a lot, like I said, the striking. He had some really good striking exchanges where he got the better of Max, which is very impressive, of course. But he also had some nasty ground and pound at times. At least in the second round, he had him on the ground, dropped elbows, shots to the side of the head. I mean, he did some serious damage. I think that's part of the reason why Max couldn't put his foot on the pedal in round 4 and 5 because Charles had worn him down quite a lot. And he also went for a lot of submissions. So, I mean, sure, he didn't stand and trade too much with Max, but that would have just been stupid anyways. But he did dominate the fight, sorry, and not only as a wrestler, but also progressing into some actually damaging positions where he could have ended the fight. But then again, Max's defense in the jiu-jitsu was really, really good. I mean, people see it like Max got dominated for 5 rounds because he did, right? But he's to survive 5 rounds basically on the floor with Charles Oliveira when Charles is trying to submit you is very impressive. And he did almost the right thing every single time in the grappling as well, Max. So credit to him there. That just shows how good of a mixed martial artist he is. But unfortunately, he couldn't get his striking on. And yeah, I mean, I picked Charles, but I thought it would be a bit more like he got a takedown and then subbed him in like round 2, not dominate him for 5 rounds. So I don't know if there's anything off with Max or what that was, but yeah, like you said, total domination from Charles Oliveira. Um, so speaking of that, who would you like to see Charles in there with next?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I also want to bring up the fact that you said, that we have to give some credit to Max Holloway here, because of his jiu-jitsu defense, and the way that he, even though Charles Oliveira tried so many submissions, he never did get taken out of the octagon, and I think that's a big credit we could also give to Max Holloway, even though, yeah, of course, he pretty clearly lost the fight. But yes, moving on to who Charles Oliveira could face next here, I think that since I really do rate this win, and I think that he's already in the top 4 of the division. I think that Charles Oliveira, especially at his age, he only has to go upwards from here, even further. And I think that maybe something like, let's say, a rematch maybe versus Arman Sarukian. We know that Justin Gaethje and Ilya Topuria are booked to fight each other, and I
Yeah.
don't see anyone else above him. Would you agree with that, or is that too much maybe? I think that he could, especially after what we saw, the pressure. I think that he has the energy to go up against Arman Sarukian again, especially considering Arman Sarukian only won a split decision last time.
Yeah, 100%. That's the obvious name that jumps out to me as well. Is Arman. I mean, you could make him fight down against someone like Benoit Saint-Denis, but does that make sense? Charles Oliveira looked really good here, but he isn't like a spring chicken. He's had a lot of fights and he's getting on a bit.
Yeah,
So I think you want to maximize the fights you can get out of him. And he's also an active fighter. So for me, 100% Arman versus Charles is a match to make because I think the first one was a really tight one. And
yeah,
sure, Orman might have gotten better, but he's only had one fight since then. I mean, if I'm not wrong, Charles has fought Michael Chandler again, Ilya, Gamrot, and then obviously now Holloway. So he's been a lot more active and against better opposition as well. And I mean, this is vintage Charles Oliveira. So for me, that's a 50-50. And to answer your question, I totally think that Charles can hang with Arman on the ground as well. And even if he can't, if Arman like subs him or dominates him, that makes Arman like the biggest name in the division almost, except for the champ, obviously. And a fight between Ilya and Arman would be huge then. So I think I agree with you. That's the matchup to make. Um, Quickly on Max, do you have any thoughts on who he should take on next? Obviously, he's going to need some time off, but when he comes back,
yeah. So regarding Max, I think that what his next fight could be in the division could be someone like, let's say, Paddy Pimblett or Benoit Saint-Denis, since neither of them have fights upcoming that are booked right now, and both of them have fought in the last half year or so, actually quite recently, even in the last few months. So either of those guys could be, I think, a good matchup for Max Holloway. I think that when looking at Benoit Saint-Denis, he has a lot of momentum going right now, and the question could be, he has a lot of, at least as we have seen, he has a lot of power, but he doesn't maybe have that striking technique that Max Holloway has. So maybe Max Holloway would look at that matchup against Saint-Denis as favorable for him. But then also we have Paddy Pimblett, who I think is someone who desperately needs to show that he still has the level, required in the top, let's say top 5 in the division, which Max Holloway I think still is in the top 5. It's hard to argue that even though he lost this fight, I think it's hard to argue that he's should be below someone like Saint-Denis or Paddy Pimblett even right now. So I think it's interesting. I think that it's quite open for Max. We don't really know how long he's gonna be out. He didn't really take. I mean, he didn't really take a lot of. He took some, as you said, some ground and pound, but he didn't really take a huge amount of damage. Most of it was grappling, or there was a lot of grappling at least. So he wasn't really, like the Gaethje fight when he was just, or the Poirier fight when they were just slugging it out all fight long. So I think that it really depends on when Max Holloway wants to return again. And but I do think that Saint-Denis or Paddy Pimblett could be a good matchup for him. Do you also agree, or do you see someone else here in the division that is a good test for Max to remain?
Not really, to be honest, because I think that when you look further down, the guys just aren't at this level. Maybe if you wanted to give him like someone like Mauricio Rufy, when he, like, I think he will beat Chandler on the White House card, but all the other names, even though Max lost now, I don't think, a bit like Oliveira, is that old and that experienced. You don't need to give him like a bounce back fight, like, layup like
Yep.
Dariush or someone like that. So, totally agree with you. Um, Paddy or Santini. My only thing is with the timing, because Santini fought pretty recently, but he didn't take
Yep.
any damage against Hooker. So maybe he wants to cash in on the hype and some momentum and fight quite soon. Whereas I get your point with the fact that Max didn't take that much damage, but I get the feeling that he's gonna want to have a bit of time off, especially if he fights either Paddy or Benoit Santini, who are both good grapplers, because blueprint is there how to beat Max now, and no one has done it as dominantly as Charles showed that he could. So
That's
maybe he
very
wants,
true. Yeah, that's an underrated point, actually.
yeah, so maybe he wants to take some time also. For me, the best name is Paddy Pimblett because he took a lot of damage against Gaethje. So both guys are gonna want to return like September, October, maybe at the earliest. The only thing there is Paddy Pimblett is one of the biggest names in the UFC that they're trying to promote. And if you put him in there with Max, I mean, Max is a big name in itself. But do you want to like give either of those guys a loss? Maybe not. Maybe you want to get Paddy a easier fight. But for me, as a fan, that's totally the fight to make. Max against Paddy. Um,
Yeah.
are we
So
ready to move on then to our co-main event?
absolutely, we can move on to the co-main event. Should I take this one first, or do
Yeah,
you want to
go for it.
introduce?
No, go for it.
Yep. So co-main event at UFC 326 was a middleweight bout between Caio Borralho and Reiner De Ridder, which, yeah, I can just begin with maybe your thoughts on this, because I know that you have something you want to say specifically about Caio's, maybe his behavior during this fight, which
Yeah,
was a bit unfortunate.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that it was
Yeah.
the fact that I got 4 out of my 5 picks correct, and if Caio had lost, I would get a 5 out of 5. So maybe I'm a bit salty because of that. But like a lot of people, basically everyone's reaction that I've seen to this fight is like defense grabs is an obvious issue, and of course that's not really Caio's fault because it's not like a serial gone where he actually hurts the opponent by doing it. It's just that he wins the fight that way. And a lot of fighters would say just that okay, it's up to the referee to stop. If the referee allows it, why wouldn't you do it? And in one way, I think it's like dirty, but in one way, it's fair enough. It's up to Herb Dean. He's good enough to see. It was obvious to see multiple times. And that stopped the Ridder's biggest weapon because on the feet, Caio looked very good, especially in round one. I mean, the boxing, the head movement, the foot movement, very, very decent from Caio. But I mean, stopping the Ridder's main part being the wrestling with the fence grab, it leaves a bit of a bad taste in the mouth, to be honest. But I'm gonna focus on what's on the actual fight, the other bits of it. And like I said, Caio, a really crisp performance. I love the boxing. What's surprising to me is the lack of power there is. I mean, when he lands on guys, it doesn't even give a reaction. And his boxing, his technique is very good, and he's a big guy, so I don't get how it doesn't cause more damage. And I think that's a bit of a
Yeah,
concern.
he's like all style, no power,
Yeah,
almost in the way that he
which I
fights.
really don't get. So that confuses me a bit. But all in all, a good performance from Caio. He did what was required. Yeah. it's a bit of me that thinks that the Ridder, I really like him as a fighter, and I think it's very well rounded. But this night, I mean, he was gassing heavily when going into the second round. I'm like, bro, you've fought 5 round fights before. What's going on? What was this training camp? Was it like a bad weight cut? I mean, he's a huge middleweight, so possibly the Ridder should move up. But it was hard for Bro not to look good when the Ridder was gassing after 5 minutes. But credit Caio, he got the win. Um, what did you make of it? Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with your, your recap of that fight. I think that yes, Caio's striking, I think it was superior to the Ridders even from the first round, but certainly later when the Ridder started gassing out, I think both of them were quite clearly gassed in the third round. And yeah, I mean, it's difficult. You don't really want to give too much praise to Caio here because, as we covered, the fence grab sort of let him get away with a lot of grappling defense that otherwise would have lent an advantage to the Ridder here. So, but all I really have to say is that if we disregard that, I think that probably still a deserved at least win in terms of the striking here, even though it wasn't that much power on show. He did do some damage with some nice counters and elbows against the Ridder when he was trying to put pressure on Caio.
Mm.
And yeah, so a bit of a what could you say? As you said, it leaves a bit of a bad taste in your mouth when you're thinking about this fight because of the earlier fence grabs. I think that probably still is deserved in terms of the striking, and maybe that brings us. But I don't believe that because I think the judges scorecard were something like 30-27 for Caio, which I don't
Yeah.
really get because the second round, I think the second round was quite clearly probably in favor of the Ridder, even though there wasn't that much grappling. If there's any round that we could give the Ridder, I think it's the second round. He put a lot of pressure, and Caio, sure, he dodged a lot, but also he didn't do much else than that, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. The defense looked like at times like Floyd Mayweather, but when you
Yeah,
don't combine that with good offense, because the whole thing is to do like, Anderson Silva, who moves out of the way, bailes you into range, and then capitalizes on the fact that you step forward without getting your exchange. And that's the perfect time to time the opponent coming in. And he just didn't do that. And that was a gassed the Ridder with his guard down. If you're not going to do that in round two against the Ridder, are you gonna do it against anyone else? And what I want to get into is something that really got me on the post-fight interview because I think Caio Borralho, I don't particularly like him, but he's very good at cutting promos. In the press conferences, he's entertaining. Post-fight, he does what a lot of people should be doing, creating some hype, doing some sick call-outs. But he went on to call out Dricus du Plessis, and for me, that's a fight that I really don't need to see. It's a bit like Topuria versus Katie on the White House. I mean, why do it? Fair enough that he calls for it because there are easier fights than him. Obviously, Dricus du Plessis is the
yeah.
first or second most difficult fight in the entire division. So fair enough for him for calling for that. But that's you have to agree that that's a pointless fight to make, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that especially after this fight, actually, because going into this fight, I actually thought that Kai would probably maybe show an even, a better fight, even in terms of maybe his defense, grappling defense, which without cheating, obviously. But yes, so I sort of think that this fight sort of made me realize that Caio probably isn't the level of fighter that I thought maybe could be before, and he probably belongs sort of in the I think middleweight division. I could say top, maybe at the highest top six or something like that. I think it's a completely different level between him and Rickus, especially in the striking department. I think that sure Caio, he does have some stylish defense, but he doesn't have any. He could never keep up. I think with Rickus pressure and especially the cardio. If we're talking about a 5 round fight or maybe a fight night main event or however they would like
Yeah.
to make this fight. So it's no, I don't think that's a good fight for him to make. But speaking about a good fight for Caio to have here, is there any one special that you could imagine?
I mean,
That's not
looking at the
because
rankings here, most guys are booked. I mean, all the
yeah,
rumors are there. Hamzat is going to take on Imavov soon. Sean Strickland is coming off a fight. That might be the one to make because he's the most highly ranked guy. And Caio Borralho, it was ranked number 7, sorry, going into this fight. So surely he should get someone above him. That makes sense. Anthony Hernandez is going to move below him. Israel Adesanya is booked against Pfeiffer pretty soon. Maybe if Izzy wins, but I don't see him taking a Caio matchup. But Izzy could piece up Caio, so that's a possibility. There are rumors that Brennan Allen is going to take on Dricus du Plessis in the summer. So for me, the name that stands out here is Sean Strickland. Because on the odds and going into this fight, I think that it will be pretty even. Both are coming off very good wins against highly ranked guys. But Strickland did it in way better fashion. And we've seen in the Dricus fights that he's good at surviving, he's very good cardio, and he's very good boxing. So I think Sean Strickland would cause a lot of problems for Caio. But I think it's a reasonable fight to make because if either guy, the guy that wins that one, is right up there in the discussion. Do you agree with that, or do you have any other name in mind?
no, I think that the Strickland matchup is actually the best one here. As you said, there is an idea maybe about Izzy, but that depends sort of on how that fight goes, and however, Izzy wants to pursue his career and his next fight. So I think that the Strickland matchup is a good fight here because I don't I think that Caio, considering that he called out Ricketts, would probably back himself against Strickland, and if he really wants to be able to fight Ricketts, I think he should fight Strickland, and we can see what the level difference would be. Because honestly, I think that Strickland would piece up Caio, even if Caio has good defense. I think that Strickland is a better striker than Caio probably from what we've seen for so far. So I would love actually to see that matchup, and then in the post-fight, interview, see what Caio has to say about going up against Dricus. So
Yeah, 100%. All right.
but the Ridder, Reiner De
Oh
Ridder,
yeah, of course, the
yeah,
Riddler. What's next for him? I mean, I'm looking at the rankings here. There's not too many names that stand out. I think I keep banging on about it like a broken record. I really do think that the Reader is a good fighter. Um, but the last two performances have been really bleak. I mean, this one was even worse because you could argue that the Brennan Allen one was Brennan Allen being good. But in this one, it really wasn't like Kaya was that special.
yeah,
He also gassed, but the Riddler gassed instantly. So I mean, for me, maybe he can learn how to weight cut better. But I've heard him before complaining about his weight cut since he's such a big guy. I think just make the move like a lot of guys have done, like Alex Pereira. And I'm not saying he's as good, obviously, but Alex Pereira was a very good middleweight, but he moved up to light heavyweight, and people were like, "How is he gonna manage this?" Oh, he was just better because he didn't have to cut that much weight and actually carried more power. So for me, the first thing is Reiner Reader. I think he should move up to 205 to light heavyweight. But and then I mean, it's completely different answers depending on. I've kind of a hard time giving you a name right now because I don't even know which weight class he's going to be in. But if he sticks in middleweight, someone like a Cannonier, Tulid say, I
yeah,
know that Paulo Costa, these guys, I know they have matchups. An interesting one, we might as well speak about it quickly, is Gregory Rodrigues, because he came off a very spectacular knockout, and that would be a step up for him as well. So possibly that could be a nice matchup. Do you agree that the Reader has to fight down in the rankings now?
yeah. I think so. I think that after first Allen and then Caio, I think that I don't want to say that he has hit his limit because I remember, his incredible run last year, and just you know, you could maybe even see him being a top 2 or top 3 in the division if he managed to win versus Allen and going further, especially now since Allen is a top 4 in the division. So it sort of hurts me to say that I want him to fight downward, but as you said yourself, he gassed out in the second round basically. How is he gonna manage a 5 rounder if that's what he wants? So yeah, I think that he probably needs to fight downwards, and we're not gonna see a title shot from the Ridder. I think if that ever would have existed. unfortunately. But I definitely think that Gregory Rodrigues Robocop, it's a good matchup for him to see. Can he deal with that power? Can he deal with his grappling even? Because I think that Gregory Rodrigues also has some grappling, maybe hidden away. But we'll come to him later down the card. So if that's all.
Yeah, I think so. Should we move on
Yeah.
to the featured fight
Yep.
here, which was Rob Font against Raul Rosas Jr. And Raul Rosas Jr., 21 years old, I'm pretty sure is getting I assume he's going to get ranked when the rankings, I think they change tomorrow, if I'm not incorrect there. And I reckon it's going to climb into the rankings since Rob Font was ranked. So beating a veteran like that in quite dominant fashion, I mean, he got the unanimous decision. Um, it is really impressive at that age, but I'm sure you've seen he's gotten a lot of backlash because he didn't do what Charlie, just because McGregor calls him Charlie Olives, Charles Oliveira did. Um,
Yeah.
he he had a lot of control over Rob Font, but he didn't really use it to get submissions or even ground and pound. Do you think can you fault Raul Rosas Jr. over this performance at all, or is it just good that he got the win no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult. I think that if this was a higher stakes fight, let's say, title contender, maybe even, further on, then I probably wouldn't fault him. I'd say that similar to, maybe Umar, at least before, the stakes were so high, they really need to get the win. But I mean, this was a pure level difference. Him and Rob Font, I think it was quite obvious. Rod Rosas was several levels above, especially, in the grappling. So I definitely think that he could have gone for some sort of should have tried at least to submit him a bit more, or just land some more ground and pound, try to get into those positions, especially when he had so much control. And it could be a bad habit also developing here. If he feels like, okay, I can win, if he feels like he needs to win in this way versus someone like Rob Font, how is he gonna get out of that mindset when he fights other guys that are much better, sort of like Umar is right now, So, I think it's a bit disappointing, but at the same time, it's such a dominant performance, and as you said, it's probably his, you could say the placement fight in the rankings after this. So it's important for him to. There is definitely stakes, but I'm just saying that he shouldn't make this a habit to not get finishes and only get control time.
Difficult thing to say, right? Because if that's
Yeah.
the case that he has used this approach because he knew it would work in this fight, then it's brilliant. Then it's great. If he goes up, I know it's going to take small steps, but if he eventually keeps on winning and fights someone really dangerous, like someone dangerous on the feet, should I say, like
Yep.
like a Song Yadong or Corey Sandhagen, someone like that who has power. If he lays on top of them for 2 rounds straight, but then gets clipped, it might be it. So yeah, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's so young. Hopefully, he's going to learn. I mean, he's been doing a lot of training with Merab, I saw, and that's definitely paying out because he was like as dominant as Merab usually is. It's going to be interesting to see him
Yeah.
climb through the rankings. I mean, any name that jumps out at you now, who you want to see him in there with next?
I mean, yeah, considering that he fought against, Rob Font, who is the 13th ranked in the bantamweight division, it's hard to argue, especially at his age, that he shouldn't fight upwards after this, and someone maybe even better in the division. It's a bit difficult for me to place maybe who exactly, but maybe someone like, I don't know, Peyton Talbot, another prospect, who also fought, quite recently, who also has, a lot of promise in the division. But considering that they're both, young, they're both prospects, maybe the UFC doesn't want to mash them up. They don't want to sort of eliminate a future prospect in either of them. So if someone else that's a bit older in the division, we could see someone like maybe Bautista or Figgy here. It really is whoever is a bit further above, but not too much. Not someone like, I wouldn't give him someone like, Song Yadong or Sandhagen. He's not that at all at that level yet, I think. Do you agree, or do you think that there's someone else that I'm missing maybe.
No, I totally agree. You mentioned a name there that I would personally go for. I think
Yeah,
Figgy is a good matchup because he's a
yeah,
fun fighter, he's a veteran as well, but he's still very good. And he has been losing a lot lately, but his last losses are Umar, Corey, and Peter Yan. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is a good gatekeeper. But basically, every division has a gatekeeper. If you beat them, you're probably going to go far. But he might get stopped. He might lose to Figgy because Figgy is very good, but he's also 38 years old. So for me, that would be a real fun
yeah.
fight. If he beats Figgy, even though he's 38, I think then he's on to bigger and better things, and can get a name like a Song Yadong or Sandhagen or someone like that, depending on what other fights take place.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, now he's beaten a ranked guy. He shouldn't fight like another guy in the same rank, like Phillips or Oliveira or something like that. I think he should
No, no.
get like a move up, especially when he won in this way, which was very dominant, and actually see because the thing is, you can dominate Rob Font like that, but if you dominate Figgy like that, that's something completely else. So I agree with you. That's a really good matchup to make.
That's great. So yeah, now we've almost gotten to the last fight of the card, but not yet. We have one fight before that. We have the lightweight bout between Drew Dober and Michael Johnson, where Drew Dober got a second round KO here. Do you want to give a quick recap of this fight, even though it wasn't that long, but still there's a round here, the first round maybe that.
Yeah, and
Let's see.
that round Johnson actually won. I thought.
Yeah,
Um, in quite good fashion. I mean, I wasn't particularly impressed with either guy. A bit like, you see the age, and then you're kind of impressed because Drew is like 37, I'm pretty sure, and I think Michael Johnson is like 39 or something like that. So they're not too young, to be honest, especially in this weight class. Um, but
yeah, they're veterans. I remember in the last video we struggled sort of, with the word legend. We wanted to ask, to describe
yeah, yeah,
the older fighters. I think veteran might be a better word than legend, maybe in this case,
yeah,
regarding Drew Dober
probably.
and Michael Johnson.
We
Yeah,
should respect them, but at the same time, I mean, they're at the end of their careers, and this is how they look. But to the point,
yeah,
that straight left, it was beautiful from Drew Dober. He has pulled that out of nowhere, straight left hand, flatline KO. Johnson was out cold, um, and I mean, the shin just showed itself. He usually has quite a good shin, but at 39 years of age, I mean, fought in the UFC that long, nobody beats Father Time. So, and I predicted Dober, to be fair, just because of that. To be honest, it's not many fighters who are pushing on 40 that can handle and have a shin intact. But I mean, what a knockout! It was unbelievable. Do you have anything to add, except for the brilliant knockout there from Dober?
no, I mean I agree with you. I think that the first round sort of Michael Johnson started a bit better, and Drew Dober grew into it a bit in the second round, and then he obviously found that great knockout as you described it. And yeah, moving on maybe to, or no, maybe we should cover the next opponent for Drew Dober here. If there is someone, maybe we
I
can
mean,
point out. It's a bit difficult, maybe to.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but like he didn't
Yeah,
want to like call anyone out. He said like I feel great, I want to fight again. But if he really wanted like a ranked fight, he would have said the name because he would know that that possibility was there on such a big occasion. But I mean, he's 37. If he wants to keep going, I'm guessing he is. Then great for him. But it's for me personally anyway. It's almost too difficult to say maybe like I know that it's going to be a rough take, but and Dariush is booked, and a lot of people said that
yeah,
Dariush is a lot better, but he has quite an awkward losing streak. So maybe that make it like a veteran fight, because I don't think it's time for him to take a young prospect right now. Just
no, no,
have a fun one. But I've struggled to point out a name because the ranked guys are just a bit too good, I think. Do you agree with
yeah.
that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that Darius might be a good shouter. He shouldn't fight any real ranked guy. Only really if there's any other veteran. I definitely think that the UFC will want to bring him back though, especially after this knockout. They always want more entertainment value. So Drew Dober is probably someone we will see again. There's no chance I think that he will go years without fighting. He will fight again, but as you said, it will be for fun probably against a veteran. So yeah.
Yeah. And then we're on to our last, or should we say, the opener of the main card.
Yeah.
And what an opener it was. In my opinion, the best performance of the night came from Gregory Rodrigues, who came back in the rematch against Bruno Ferreira. And he didn't only come back, he knocked him out in the first round. A clean knockout from Gregory Rodrigues. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, what I made from it is as you said, basically the knockout here, a super clean knockout from Gregory Rodrigues here, and the first round started sort of, I wouldn't say slow, but they were feeding each other out. There wasn't a huge amount of volume going off, but it was very short. It was only about 2 minutes into the round, maybe a bit less even, before Gregory Rodrigues got his knockout here, and yeah, Bruno Ferreira, it didn't even have to take another shot, like against Jörg Hermansson when he quickly leapt on to give follow-up shots that was a bit controversial after when he was clearly out. That did not happen here. It was just a quick, one tap basically, and Bruno Ferreira was out, and there was no follow-up shots. Yeah, quite the performance. As I said, probably the best performance on the card, considering that Bruno Ferreira has had decent, has a decent chin, right? From before.
Yeah, definitely. And it was so easy, like you said, that also shocked me, the fact that he had like a follow-up shot loading, but he just kept it in because he
Yep.
saw, oh, he's out. And that's the thing, when guys do that, when you look at the pure boxing, he followed through. He does what you call in boxing, punched through the target. It's not like a lot of people think that you're gonna hit the target. No, you want to make sure that your hand would actually be stopped by the motion of the other person. It should reach through because that's how you get enough power that it actually connects with your hand when you have the most momentum. And that's exactly what he did. And what happened? Um, yeah, he went out cold basically. So textbook boxing from Rodriguez there. Made it look easy. I saw it flashed up that he has the second most knockouts in the UFC since 2021 after Alex Pereira. So I mean that's a very impressive stat. And something I think is interesting is you alluded to it previously, but Gregory Rodriguez, he only strikes. He's a very good boxer and has a lot of power, but he's a jiu-jitsu black belt, which a lot of people know, and really good at grappling as well. And I think that makes it difficult for guys to fight him because he's not one of these strikers that's, oh, get him to the ground and you'll do well. He's good on that
Yeah.
too, only that he chooses to have it standing, where he's also very good. So I think he can cause a lot of guys some problems. There are holes there, but that one hero critter will really be something for his next opponent to worry about, no matter who it is. Um, but for me personally, I think that it's time for a step up for him. He's been fighting some unranked guys now. I mean, Ferreira was ranked at 15. Looking for the rankings here. What do you reckon? Who's next?
I think that, we alluded to it also earlier when we were talking about the co-main event of this fight between Caio Borralho and Reiner De Ridder. And even though Reiner De Ridder lost, he still has more to give in this division. And I think, considering that De Ridder is ranked, I think about in the 8th spot or something like that, I think it's a decent step up for Gregory Rodrigues here, and it's a good fight for them to make, because can Gregory Rodrigues knock De Ridder out, or can De Ridder use his? Even though, of course, Gregory Rodrigues has a lot of, as you said, as a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is quite something. But is that enough to stop De Ridder's grappling? Will he use the same fence grabs as Caio, or will we see just a complete domination from either opponent? I really don't know. That's why I want that fight also, actually, because there's a lot of aspects there, and I really do not know how that fight would go. I actually think the RoboCop has a decent chance there, but I can also see the Ridder just, using his strength and his size to maybe put pressure on RoboCop. It will be interesting to see the cardio difference, though. What do you reckon in that fight? Do you think that's a good pick, or is there someone else there in the rankings?
I mean, I want him to fight someone quite highly
Yeah,
ranked since he's ranked at 13 himself before this fight and looked really good now getting this knockout. So I agree with you. He should be stepping up, but anything above the Ridder is almost too difficult. If he doesn't fight Hernandez, who is ranked number 6, but he will get moved down, I reckon, after the loss to Strickland there. So yeah, the Ridder is the name for me. I mean, Gregory Rodrigues has the recently fights. He has a lot better form and has looked really, really good. But he has never fought anyone close to the level of the Ridder. Of course, a former one championship champion and has beaten
yeah,
the likes of Whitaker and Bo Nickel and so on. So for me, that will tell a lot. If either guy wins that one dominantly, I think that they are well and truly back into contention for these, like, top 7 spots maybe in the division. So that's a really, really, what can I say, underrated fight to make. I totally agree with you. That would be very, very interesting because the Reader has a good chin as well. So if Gregor Rodriguez would knock out him, it would make him a lot more serious and put the other guys in the division on notice. So I totally agree that's a really good fight to make, actually.
yeah, and also just the reach of the Ridder and his sort of his tools and sort of his elbows. The Ridder has some tools in his striking that maybe we didn't really see against Caio as much, because Caio was mainly on the defense, which is his style of striking. So I think it's really interesting also with the matchup between how they want to approach the fight between Gregory Rodrigues and the Ridder. So yeah, that's a really interesting fight to make, and I want to see that as soon as possible, really. So
Yeah, 100%. But that's everything, I think. That's UFC 326 in the books, our instant reaction and review. Um, yeah, it was a good event. I mean, maybe not the most stacked, but a lot of the fights delivered at least. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
but that's everything from us. So thank you guys a lot for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. We'll make some more videos in the future, maybe considering the recently announced White House main event, for example. Main card, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big one as well. You'll see that
Yeah.
coming pretty soon.
So,
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
yeah. Goodbye.